Sup, dudes? It's been a little bit. A lot's happened since we last spoke. A lot has happened since we last spoke. The old man dropped out. Kamala took over, not necessarily by popular demand. And then RFK endorses Trump, which is primarily why I really want to get back on here, because I wanted to touch on that. Because I would say it's a good thing, but I want to talk about the impact that it might actually have, right? So, when he was in the race, he was taking some votes away from Joe Biden. And, presumably, Kamala when she was in it. But now that he's backed up and endorsed Trump, we're going to catch some votes from that. But is it really going to sway over his base to endorse Trump altogether? But then there's an overlaying question there is, does it even matter? Will it even matter that, RFK backs out, that Trump's in, the lead? Are they going to play fair is going to be my biggest question when it comes to this election. I'm excited for November in the fact that there's a lot of people that have caught on to the stuff that had happened in 2020. The things that you can't talk about on YouTube. But I'll say that having these giant cardboard, things over windows and blocking people out when they're counting ballots, that type of stuff isn't going to be kosher anymore. Well, I'm assuming because people, they came to realize, like, this is what was happening. Like, this is how Joe Biden won, is all these little things that you'll see, Arizona was fighting, Georgia was fighting, they brought all this evidence back, and they learned that, a lot of people voted that weren't alive or, weren't there, or more people voted than there were actually people in the county. So the question is, are we going to see more of that? Are we going to see a fair election? Or are we going to see what we saw in 2020? With RFK endorsing Trump, I feel like there's, we'll call it a dream team, right? You're seeing a lot of, memes where it's got Trump, Elon Musk, RFK, Vance. We've got a pretty cool team of people that, a lot of them were former Democrats and they got fed up with the Democratic Party. This is, I think I've seen a thing that said this is the first candidate that's ever, gone Republican or endorsed a Republican. And there's some truth in that. But think of the political space from, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And now it's a totally different ballgame. You could hear a clip of Bill Clinton talking, in the 90s and saying, hey, we need to protect our border. There's a lot of illegal immigrants. And like he's making talking points that the radical right, the far right, or whatever you want to call us, are making. It just a common statement. Yeah, like we shouldn't have all these people in the country that aren't contributing in any way or paying taxes or whatever, right? And these are points that the Democratic Party were making. Like we were aligned on a lot of policies back in the day. And I'm using back in the day, like not, 50 years ago, like 20 years ago or pre 2008. Like there was a lot of things that we were aligned on, that now are just so far out of the realm of thought of just having a decent conversation between somebody who may be a liberal and who may be a Republican or whatever. Like, honestly, nowadays, it's hard to even say that I'm a Republican because, DC is just a swamp. It's an overused term, but it's realistic. Like, there's just people in there that are going to be there collecting a large check for a long time. And that won't ever change because the people who voted on that are the ones sitting there collecting the check, right? So I guess we'll just have to wait all of them out for all the swamp creatures to retire, right? But I feel like Trump is definitely the answer to a lot of the issues we're running into. I feel like we don't even have to talk about the prices of food, gas, houses, whatever you point at, it is more expensive than it was 4 years ago. I mean, just keeping food on the table is getting a little insane. I was at the grocery store last night with the wife. You know how much a thing of Oreos is? Take a guess. Doesn't matter what the answer is. Like $6. $6 for Oreos. You know how much a 12-pack of soda is? We were at Kroger yesterday, and they were on sale for $5. They were originally priced at $10. Like $8 is the going rate for a 12-pack of soda. You guys might not remember this, but you used to be able to get 3 for $10. I feel like not that long ago. And it's something that we're all feeling. I mean, anybody that has a normal job and isn't, making tons and tons of money that doesn't even buy their own groceries, everybody else is feeling it. And then you've got a select group of people that are pretending that it's okay, that they want more of this. Like when they are going to cast their vote for Kamala Harris, old camel face, they're saying that the past 4 years has been great. They want more of that. Because there's so much doublespeak in the fact that they're like, well, no, Kamala Harris wasn't the border czar. And then there's like tons of evidence that she was proclaimed the border czar, which I don't even know what that title is. I guess she's in charge of it, right? And it is the worst thing ever. I would say maybe the UK and Europe are in a worse shape with the people that they're bringing in. I won't dive in too much, but I'll say that they have more conversions to Islam in the UK and in Europe than there ever has been. There's more, let's say, man-on-woman violence in the UK than it ever has been. And, I mean, draw your own conclusions, but when you have unvetted immigrants from, areas where there's a ton of violence on women, man to a woman type of violence, that is very commonplace in a lot of these areas. And so when you push them all in an area without vetting them in any type of way, of course you're going to have those high crime statistics happen to you in your backyard. But that's the world that we live in, and I feel like there's this giant chessboard that nobody is privy to except for the people behind the scenes, right? And in this chessboard, we have a ton of migration. We're moving these people, out of the Middle East into Europe. We have a ton of, African immigrants going there to Europe, or Mexicans into the USA. There's this mass migration happening all over the United States and in Europe. And we can't really talk about the negative repercussions, or else you're a bigoted person. So let's talk facts, right? So the facts are violence is up, money's down, the economy's bad. So why would we put more people into that situation? If we can't take care of our own household, why would you invite more people in? Does that make sense to anybody? I know that's an allegory, but I'm just saying, if I couldn't afford my bills in my house, why would I bring more people in so I could feed them and house them just to make my debt worse? And assuming that they wouldn't have to get a job or anything like that, but in fact, I would give them my money. I would give them more money so that they can go live a pretty lavish lifestyle. In fact, to give a better perspective or a better allegory of the situation, because in the UK, immigrants are getting priority housing instead of people that are actually living in their own country. It's the people that are immigrating, illegally that are getting these priority homes. In California, I believe it either passed or they put it on the docket to be approved, like zero down houses for illegal immigrants. Like your own people can't even afford their own housing. Why would you, there is a term for it, which it probably is going to get this video delisted, but it's called the Great Migration Theory, or the Great Replacement Theory. That's what it is. Great Replacement Theory, which people are labeling as a theory, or they have for, some time now. But it seems like it's coming more and more true. I try not to touch on aspects of race, but it is unfortunately so relevant to everything that we do nowadays that it's inherently wrong to be a white person. And that's crazy. It shouldn't matter what you look like, what your color is. This was something like what I'm saying now was preached when we were actually trying to end racism prior to the 2020s of everybody is equal. It doesn't matter what color you were, what religion you were, or whatever. Everybody's on the same equal footing. As a person, you could be whatever you make yourself, right? But nowadays, that's not true. You're wrong and evil for being white, right? Okay, that sounds hyperbolic, but I'm not kidding. There are people out there, a lot of people that could be outspoken about this and say, hey, I don't like them, or they're not allowed to do this. Colleges are not going to allow you into them because of your race or ethnicity, and like that in itself is racism, right? But it's hard not to look these ugly truths in the face when you have mass migration and then you have this culture it's an American culture, a UK culture, wherever you're at, of one race being better or needs more help than another one. Like, and maybe I'm crazy, but I would think that if you told a race of people that you guys need more help, you need more to help you get to a level playing field, like what do they call it? Equity, right? As long as it doesn't matter where you come from, you still end up on equal footing. If you were to tell a race of people you need extra help, like, I feel like that is disparaging and racist. That's the statement that I have a problem with. But I'm going off on a tangent. It's been so long since I talked to you guys that I've just had a lot of pin up thoughts that I really want out there to all. I think it was 10 subscribers. I just want you guys all to know what I'm feeling. But really, this upcoming election and the changes that have been made so quickly, the Kamala thing, I really want to touch on that, because how it played out is the old man got too old or too sick or whatever the case was. They couldn't control him anymore. He couldn't publicly speak, which he hasn't been able to publicly speak in a while. But I feel like it opened up enough eyes when they put him on stage with Trump. But I feel like they knew what they were doing. They didn't pump him up like they did in the State of the Union address with what God knows what medicine to make him full throttle, right? They just left him out there to get hammer timed by the Don, which, I mean, even if you're not 80 years old, going up against the Don, that's tough to ask, right? So they left him out to dry there. And then they portrayed themselves of like, oh, I had no idea that he was a dementia patient. I had no idea. I'm bewildered. This is shocking information. Well, since he's so old now, we can all admit to it. Let's go ahead and pop in Kamala, right? Instead of having, where people debate each other or, campaign in some way, let's make the incumbent Kamala. We'll just rock and roll, right? Which, at first thought, you're like, whatever, dude. Like, she was very unliked to the point where, she ran for president and, like, did not really get much support in that regard. And then even as a VP, like, how often did you see her actually speaking and, like, not making a fool of herself or saying ridiculous things like something about being unburdened about what has been? I mean, it's a word salad phrase that she used. I'll try to include it here in a second, but like, it's just a jumble of words to sound profound, and so there's no substance, right? She's all sizzle, no steak. And so, for me, on the right, the alt-right, whatever you want to call me, the conspiracy theorist, I'm like, sure, line her up, dude. She's not that popular. But I'm assuming that we're still in a republic where my vote matters. My vote goes to a delegate and they vote, right? We're not a democracy. I just hate to burst that bubble in case some of you guys think that. we're a republic where, our votes go into a pile. That delegate or delegates cast their vote. They can still vote Democrat if we vote Republican and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we're still assuming that the process works. And it's sad to think that, like, there's always been, and as far as I've been alive, there's always been this, like, hint of, election interference, we'll call it that. There's always this, the machines went down at 3 a.m. kind of stuff, and it happens every year. But it happened in such an insane amount in 2020 that it's really got me thinking, and probably a fair amount of others, it's really got me thinking, like, is the system gonna work? Like, if you woke up tomorrow, let's say the election was tonight, and you woke up tomorrow and they declared Kamala the winner, like, does that sound right to you? Does it sound like 51% of the world or the United States would agree with that conclusion, that they cast their vote and they voted Kamala Harris in? Does that sound right? Because when you look at the visual evidence of, like, the rallies and their get-togethers are sparse. There's few people there. They have to literally AI edit photographs of people being in there. Like when, again, I'll try to find it and include it, but like the picture of them coming off the plane, her and Waltz, and they have just a bunch of, like, AI edited in people in. They have to do those things to portray a sense of confidence. And they have the Operation Mockingbird. And if you don't know what that is, I can always do an episode on that. But the CNNs, the ABCs, the media portraying this, confidence of her as if they just haven't been around for the past 4 years. It's the same people that are saying, yeah, we want her, are the same people that were like, yeah, no, she's not really doing much. It's so funny. It's so funny because it's also the same people that were so high and mighty on their, news channels, sitting in front of their big TVs and screens and teleprompters saying, I can't believe the alt-right extremists are saying that Joe Biden is senile. How rude and insensitive of them. This is the same guy that they literally couldn't prosecute because they said he was too old and too senile to do so when it come to, like, mishandling information and stuff like that. It's just wild. I feel like we live in two different universes, and it's so crazy to me. It's so crazy. Like, everybody I know and in my life are hardworking Americans, and we might not line up on all the different political principles, right? But that's okay, right? You can disagree with somebody. And I really feel like we forget that sometimes. I feel like we forget that you can have different opinions and it's not the end of the world. Because nowadays it's so polarizing. Like, somebody that wanted to vote for Kamala, I'm not mad at you. I feel like maybe you're misguided, and I would love to talk to you, but you're not a bad person inherently. You're not a bad person because you're a certain color or a certain religion or whatever, right? But when you are backing a party or you're part of a culture that thinks that somebody is lesser than or is evil because of the way that they look, their skin color, or whatever, or they don't have the same idea of what your life is like, they could never know what it's like to be a certain color. Man, we all go through rough times, man. We all do. And there might be certain advantages to looking like something else. Like, if you are a super attractive person, regardless of what color you are, if you're a super attractive person, you're going to live a different life than a super ugly person. That don't have anything to do with race or ethnicity or anything like that. It's all a different perspective, but that's life. We all look, sound, feel, all that's different. Guys, I think I done some rambling, but long story short, my Adobe Premiere doesn't work on my computer anymore, so I figured out a way to make it work. So that's part of the reason why I haven't been around. But I'm not gonna give you any excuses. I really miss doing this. I miss y'all talking to all 10 of my friends. But thank you for your time, and God bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me.